It seems like every year these stories come out where people are just leaving the church and leaving organized religion. So I know a lot of the younger people are no longer interested in spending their time in church. So they're estimating about 40 million Americans have left churches and other religious institutions in the last 25 years. For some, the decision was rooted in deep pain, but the majority, their reasons for leaving are not a lot more mundane than you would expect. Most people left for really, a variety of different reasons, like I moved, attendance was inconvenience, or say family changed. So, what does that say about the importance of faith in America? Well, it's definitely declining, that's for sure. So, some people were raised Catholic, Baptist, Protestant, and their families went to church every single Sunday. I know that's how it was with my family. And some people just stopped going. And you know what really broke the cycle, y'all? The lockdown. It seems like after the lockdown was over, church in America, it was already declining before, but it has never been the same for many of these churches. And, some of my relatives that live in the South, they're still doing online church. They never returned back. And I know they are far from the only ones. And some things just never changed. Some people went back to physical church, and you'd be shocked. A lot of people never went back at all. And that's how it's been in my family, among my relatives that still attend church. So a lot of people are saying, there were painful reasons why they left the church. There are just people did not want to go and worship anymore. And Christianity, which is still the majority here in America and is still practiced in America, despite the fact that there's a steady decline. So, what does that tell you? Well, there are a lot of underlying reasons. And, over the past few years, it's been a lot of scandals breaking out in churches, especially with pastors, and a lot of indiscretion going on in the congregation. And y'all, when I was going to church, the biggest gossip about people I heard at the church, it was probably worse there than any place I had ever been. So, what do you think? Now, personally, I think at this stage of the game, I don't think there's going to be a church comeback. I really don't. I think we saw a spurt during 9/11. They said church attendance went up after that attack. And but it didn't last long, y'all. I think it went up for like maybe 3 weeks to a month, and then it dropped and declined again. So the dechurching is a bit faster, they said, among Asian Americans, and a little bit slower among Hispanic Latino Americans. Many of them tend to be Catholics. And they said the average is about the same between Caucasian and what they have listed here, African Americans. So it really depends on, what type of church and the generations. And they said a lot of the Hispanics here in America are first, second, and third generation. And they tend to be a lot more slower to leave the church than many other groups. So the interesting part is the dechurching, they said, is typically very prevalent in the ages of 13 to 30 range. And they noticed the biggest decline among those 18 to 29 years old, which most Americans identify as the least religious. And it's actually accelerating for that age group. Most people identify as being the most religious. Those people tend to be in an older age range, you know. So they were also asking, so the dechurching rates among men and women, it varies. So they were asking the breakdown between men and women. It's pretty widely depending on which profile you're talking about. And you should also um, just notice it is a difference. And you're right. If you say that there's more females in the church than males, then you would be absolutely right. So they said the rates of men versus women. You have groups like ex evangelicals who are predominantly female, 68%. And then you have groups like, um, which they have POC, people of color, who have left the evangelical churches. And they tend to be predominantly male, 68%. So it depends on which tradition that you're looking at. And I'm not surprised. That's a lot of people to leave the church in the past 25 years, 40 million. That's a pretty significant number when you think about it. That's a lot of people that have lost their faith, and they're no longer interested in going into a house of worship like they used to be. But in these final days, I can see a lot of that happening. You know, when I was growing up, I remember, if anything, because I went to an integrated school, and a lot of the white kids that I went to school with, they were Catholics. And it seemed like back then the Catholic Church was still going pretty strong. You know, a lot of them were into that religion. And I would see, on a Sunday, we would see families getting into cars and going to church. And we were one of those families. But I remember it was quite a few families on the street that you would see getting in their cars and attending church. And now, when I wake up on a Sunday, you really don't see that many cars leaving the street, on people attending church. It was a lot more noticeable when I was a child. Even when I grew up in the hood, Sunday was a big day. We had families all up and down the street that got ready and went to church. And now, when you wake up on a Sunday, you may see a few cars gone, for people attending church, but it is nothing like it used to be. It's like day and night now. But y'all, please tell me what you think about this video, and do you notice any differences in your area? As I had stated before, when I was coming up, there are a couple of churches that I'm near, and there used to be weddings every single weekend. You would see the limos going down the highway. You would see sometimes all three churches would have, because there's like three churches around me. Sometimes all three churches would have a wedding, you know? And it was like a big deal on Saturdays to see wedding parties. You would see them all the time. Now, y'all, I can't remember the last time I've been on the road on a Saturday or even heard, horns blowing because it's a wedding party going by. I can't tell you the last time I've seen it or even heard the car horns blowing because that was a thing they did around here. You always knew a wedding party was going by because you would hear the car horns. I haven't heard that in years now. Yeah, I mean, it really is different now. But please tell me what you think about this video. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.